It is a strange day with the weather here. We've had sunshine, wind, and very heavy rain. The rain has stopped, but it is still rather cloudy. There it is, the view right now, looking out of my studio. And we are back together again. It is ever so nice to be with you once more, broadcasting live from the birthplace of the English language. This is English Addict. And yes, we are coming to you live and direct from England. We are back together live. Ooh, it's ever so nice to see you again. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan. That's me, by the way, me here on your screen. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? I hope you are feeling happy today, because we are here and it is an opportunity, a chance for us all to have some fun. You will be pleased to hear that it is still legal. It is still okay to have fun from time to time. And we are here today doing just that. I hope you are feeling okay. My name is Mr. Duncan. I talk about the English language. As you can see, I am an English addict, and I have a feeling perhaps you are one of those as well. We are back together again. Lots of things coming up today. We have a lot of things to talk about. Also, you might notice it is episode 299 of English Addict, which means, of course, for those mathematicians watching, next week will be episode 300 of English Addict. I still can't believe that we've done 299, including this one, but next week it will be 300 of these. And we're still on. That is the thing. That is the most surprising part of this. They are still letting us do this. It's incredible, really, when you think about it. We also have a subject, of course, to talk about. We are talking about making mistakes, making errors. Sometimes a mistake might be something you do without thinking about. You might make a mistake without even realizing ever in your whole life. So there might be mistakes that you make that you never even know about or even realise ever for all of your life. Isn't that amazing? And of course, there are mistakes that people will tell you about. I think that might be the worst thing one person can do to another. To tell them that they've made a mistake. I think it is a very hard thing to do. Sometimes we have to do it, of course, to be kind, but I still think that generally speaking, people don't like to be told that they've made a mistake. Something I want to talk about first of all before we carry on. Hello to the live chat. I know you are here. I haven't forgotten you. But isn't it strange sometimes, especially when you are doing things that are not connected to other things in life, especially when we are talking about social situations, anything relating to your contact with other people. And of course, the same from my point of view. The only difference between you and I is, of course, I'm here doing this on the internet. And existing in this world of the internet is a very strange thing, because I often like to think that this is an alternative world, an alternate universe. And the real world is something else. It is separate. However, sometimes it is possible for these things to come into contact with each other. You might say that those worlds collide. It is an expression we often use in English when two things that are normally separate come together, or they collide with each other. So I often like to think, in fact, I always like to think that this is kind of separate from the real world. However, sometimes those two worlds will collide. A strange event happened just after we came back from Italy, when we had our big rendezvous in Rome. We came back, and about 3 days later, Mr. Steve and myself, we were walking around the local area in which we live, and someone came up to us. We saw them, and we knew who they were. They were one of the neighbours who live in this area, one of the people who live around here. And the first thing they said, the first thing that person said to me was, "How are you feeling now? Are you okay after your fall?" Well, it completely stunned me. I was completely thrown by that comment, because of course he was referring to something that happened during my time in Italy, which I talked about on here, on YouTube. But he was talking to me about it in real life. And I have to say, for a few moments, I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. It really did surprise me. For two reasons. First of all, I don't normally talk about this in real life as I'm walking around. I don't often talk about my YouTube life, this existence. However, on that occasion I did. And also, it was very strange thinking that someone who lives nearby was watching this. So I'm just wondering now how many people I know in real life are watching me here doing this in my internet life. On the internet. Isn't it strange? So sometimes those worlds can collide. And when it happens, it can be quite surprising. It also happened again on Friday. On Friday, I went to the dentist to have my teeth checked and cleaned so they look lovely and sparkly. Like today, you see, they look lovely because I have a lovely dentist, you see, who takes very good care of my teeth. And I was at the dentist and I had my tripod with me. And the dentist asked, "Oh, you have a tripod. So what do you do? Is it your profession? Is it your job? Do you do filming or photography?" So I told her that I make lessons and I teach English on YouTube. And she really did understand everything I said about that, because she's very young. If I ever talk to someone who is much older than me, quite often they don't understand any of this. But if I talk to a younger person, they understand straight away what it is I do. So I had my treatment. She did all of the cleaning and the polishing and the scraping. And then later I was in Much Wenlock. I was in the place where I live doing some filming. And then the dentist, who I'd been with about half an hour before, walked past and said, "There you are, you're doing it. You're doing the thing that you were talking about." And I have to say, once again, I was really surprised. I didn't know what to say. It felt very strange that those worlds had collided. My virtual world, which is this, was clashing with my real world, which is real life, when you are walking around doing your normal things. So it was a very strange moment to not only talk to my dentist about this, but also to see my dentist in the street, walking by whilst making an English lesson. So it is strange sometimes. You might find that your worlds will collide. It is an expression we often use in English when we want to show that two things that are separate or normally away from each other come together. Worlds collide. It's a bit like it I suppose in relationships as well. You might have this very similar thing in a relationship where maybe the husband and wife have their own separate social activities. So those things never come together. However, sometimes maybe they do. And then perhaps some sort of conflict or difficulty will come about. So the husband might like to go to the pub with his friends, and the wife might like to go and socialise with her friends. So those worlds are always separate. They are separate things. But if they come together, quite often there can be problems and difficulties. So it was very strange. Two things happened recently that made me realise that sometimes those worlds can collide. And it is strange when you are talking on here, you often forget that the real world still exists. So if anyone is watching at the moment, any of my neighbours or anyone who knows me in real life, please don't say anything. Don't give all of my secrets away. Thank you very much. That's all I'm asking. So when your worlds collide, two things come together. And the result, of course, the result can be a simple thing. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe nothing bad happens. However, sometimes there can be definite conflict between those worlds. So that's the reason why I wanted to mention that at the start, because it is strange when those things come together. It's a little bit like your family life and your work life. So maybe at the office, your world is very different from your home life. And quite often those two things will never meet. They will never come into contact with each other. So I thought it was an interesting thing to mention because it did happen twice over a very recent and short period of time. Hello to the live chat. Hello, live chat. It's nice to see you here. It would not be English Addict without you, because without you, I would have nothing. I would have nothing at all. There would be nothing in my life. I would be standing here on my own in a dark room, wondering what should I do. So thank you for being here and giving my life some purpose. It's ever so nice. Oh, hello, Vitas. Vitas. As usual, you are first on today's live chat. Well done, Vitas. It is a nice surprise to see your finger is still as fast as ever. We are also talking about housing. Housing. So when we talk about housing, we are talking about the accommodation, or maybe a place where someone lives, or maybe lots of houses in one place. So housing can relate to many things, normally relating to the place you live, or maybe places that exist that can be used as dwellings. I like that word, by the way. Dwelling is another word for house or home. So we are talking about that. Of course, how can I forget? Sometimes I try to forget, but how can I? How can I forget that Mr. Steve will be here today for all those fans, all those people who are crazy about Mr. Steve? He is here today. So here is your warning, your 10-minute warning that Mr. Steve will be here with us right here in the studio because his performance has finished. So as you may or may not know, Mr. Steve has been busy with this, you see. He's been doing this, his little show that he's been in. And no doubt Steve will tell us all about it. He will mention it, I'm sure. He will mention the show that he's been in. So Mr. Steve will be here in around about 10 minutes. We might talk about politics, but not much. Because, of course, we did have the big election as well on Thursday. Last Thursday, we had a general election. A lot of people were surprised. Some people were shocked. Some people were outraged by the results of the general election. So now we have a brand new government. Isn't it exciting? Which means that everything will be better and more comfortable, and we will have lots of money, and everything will be amazing. Except it won't. If there's one thing I've learnt over time, it doesn't matter who you vote for, or who is your government, or who is in control. It makes no difference. Very few things change. And when they do change, quite often they will change for the worse, not the better. And that is it. That's all I'm talking about today with politics. I'm sure Mr. Steve will also have something to say a little bit later on as well. We've had a lovely, lovely week of weather and also lovely animals as well. I had the most beautiful moment yesterday, a wonderful moment of time. I was looking out the window and I noticed there was a large bird flying around, and I knew straight away what it was. It was a particular type of raptor called a red kite. Now, red kites used to be quite... well, they used to be everywhere, to be honest. You would see them quite often. However, over the years, they were almost made extinct by hunting. And also they were seen as pests by farmers. So yesterday, for the first time ever, I saw this beautiful, majestic red kite flying around above the house. And they are huge birds. They are so big. If I have my tape measure, here is my tape measure, I will show you how wide their wingspan is. And you will not believe it. In fact, I don't think I can put it on the camera because it's so large. Here it is. So this is the wingspan of the red kite. 77 inches. Can you believe that? Can you imagine having the wingspan, so that is the width of the bird with its wings outstretched? 77 inches wide when it is flying. The most amazing bird that I've ever seen, and the first time I've ever seen one here. So there are some red kites around here, but you don't see them very often, and they are rare birds. So I have to say, I was very excited to see a red kite flying over the house. Here's something that's nice as well. Would you like to see a little bit of nature in this area? Here is a baby robin. This robin has recently left the nest and its parents were feeding it. And I was walking this bird. In fact, I could hear it. Isn't that lovely? So I was very careful not to disturb the bird because you are not supposed to disturb them. And I didn't. And the parents were coming to take care of it. Isn't that just absolutely lovely? For those wondering what a baby robin looks like, that is what it looks like. Hello also to Inaki. Hello Inaki. Nice to see you here. Quitaba is here as well. Oh, we also have, you know who I'm going to mention. You know, Luis Mendez is here today. Hello Luis. I wonder where you are now. Are you in Brittany? I have a feeling you might be. If you are, I hope your signal is okay, and I hope you are receiving me loud and clear. Johnson Paul is here. Hello, watching in Tanzania. Very nice. Exotic and very far away from here. Also we have Beatrice. Hello Beatrice. Have you now settled back into your life in Argentina, I wonder, after all of the crazy things we were doing during our time in Italy and, of course, a few days ago in Bristol as well. Hello Charlotte. Charlotte Martin. Hello to you as well. I really do want to find out if anyone I know in real life is watching at the moment, especially my neighbours. So if you live near me and you are on here now, don't be shy. Just say, I know Mr. Duncan. I know him very well, and he's really miserable in real life. But please don't say that, because it's not true. Who else is here? We have Marwar. Hello to Marwar. Marwar. It's nice to have you here as well. Christina. Hello, Christina. I saw your lovely photographs. You are having a beautiful, lovely, relaxing time in Tuscany. I wish I was back there again as well. I miss it very much. Maruzio is also here. Also, we met you during our time in Italy as well. Bella. Hello, Bella. Oh my goodness. I'm shocked. I'm surprised. Hello, Bella. It's nice to see you here. Long time no see. I haven't seen Bella for such a long time. So welcome back, Bella. It's lovely to see you. What have you been doing? Have you been busy? Maybe your life has been very hectic. Who knows? Please let us know what you have been doing. Mosen is here as well. Who else is here? We will have a couple of more hellos, and then we have to prepare for the arrival of the man himself. Mr. Steve will be here sharing some more of his words of wisdom. That's all I'm saying. So Mr. Steve will be here in a moment. Have you been watching the sport? A lot of people going crazy at the moment, by the way, about sport. We have tennis taking place. A lot of people watching the Wimbledon. And of course, not only that, we also have people becoming very excited about the football. Because, did you see the match last night? Wasn't it amazing? I didn't see it, by the way. I don't have much interest in that particular sport. However, I have, in the past, tried to play it with Mr. Steve. Although it didn't go very well. not only was there football yesterday, there was also tennis as well. So, if you have been watching the tennis or the football, I hope you've been enjoying yourselves. Mr. Steve will be with us in 1 minute from now. I know a lot of people like to see the cows, so there they were just for you. Hello. Hello everyone. Are you excited? I know you are excited because we do have a lot of people who have been waiting to see this man. He has been absent for the past couple of weeks. He's let us down, but he's here today to make up for all of those moments when everyone was missing him. Of course, we are talking about the one, the only Mr. Steve.
Hello, wonderful viewers from across the globe. It's great to be here again, Mr. Duncan, after 2 weeks of absence. And I hear you've been doing quite a few live streams and getting people excited about learning English.
Yes, that's what I normally do. I try anyway.
Yes, well, have you told the viewers where I've been for the last 2 weeks?
Well,
as to why my absence has been noted on this channel. Maybe a lot of people have been pleased that I haven't been here. Have you been pleased? Are you upset that I'm back?
I can't imagine that.
Maybe you just want Mr. Duncan 100% of the time. But
So-
you get him most of the time. You only get me on a Sunday.
Well, I have to say, Steve, I think you might be the big draw. So when we talk about a person being a draw, it means they are attractive to other people. Steve, you have been very busy doing this, haven't you? You've been in this show and you did the performances last week, but you did have quite a lot of rehearsals that you had to attend, and that's the reason why Steve has been absent. You can blame this for it. So did you enjoy your show?
It was fabulous. It was very enjoyable. I was able to do it because I had some cancellations from work. We were supposed to have a meeting. So, yeah, as we get near the show, you get more rehearsals getting closer together. And so they put in some Sunday ones just to polish everything up. We've had 3 performances. It's been wonderful. But I must say that because of the football and the tennis...
and the general election...
Yes, but specifically last night, the final performance, which was Saturday evening, which is usually our busiest night. The Saturday evening final performance is normally got the most number of people in attendance, was actually the lowest because people were watching the football match and the tennis, and that was coming. That was more important to them than coming to watch us in a show. So it was slightly disappointing, but we did have lovely audiences. They were laughing. The music was nice. And I feel uplifted, Mr. Duncan, and looking forward to the next show.
You know, there is something about performing. I suppose you might say that this is a type of performing as well. I was talking about this at the start of today's live stream, how you have different worlds in your life. And sometimes those worlds will never come together. But I think this is a little bit like performing as well. So because you are coming on, you are in front of people, you can't see who is watching you, just like being on the stage, I suppose. But I do know that you get a lot of enjoyment from doing this, Steve.
See, the big difference between what I'm doing with you now, this type of performance, and the performance that we did last night is that last night is very... you have to stick to a script. It's heavily scripted. You have to learn it to the word, and you're not allowed to ad lib,
no,
as they say, or just say something that's not in the script. Just like any play, most stage, unless it's a pantomime, which tend to be ad libbed. But the show we did last night, most plays that you would go to see are all rehearsed, and every word, every note is stuck to absolutely. Whereas this is like somebody giving a speech. It's sort of more fluid. We haven't really prepared any exact script. It's just sort of free flowing.
Yeah,
and ad libbed.
I think that's it, isn't it? So if you're acting on stage, quite often you have to follow those things that you've learned. Whereas this, you might say that this is fairly free and fluid in the fact that we don't have much prepared. Even though a lot of people think we do prepare this, we don't. Mr. Steve comes into the studio, sits down, and then we do this. So we haven't really prepared anything. I normally have a subject that is prepared, but I don't prepare anything with Steve. So that's I always find it's more fun doing it like that. That's one of the reasons why I could never be an actor on the stage, because I would find it very difficult to remember those lines without messing around or being silly. I would find it very hard to
It's a team event. Everyone has to work as a team. There's about 35 of us in this company, and you all have to work as a team. Because if there's dialogue or a song, you can't have somebody saying something different, particularly in dialogue, because it's got to flow. There is a story that's got to be stuck to, and you can't vary that. But anyway, I love doing it. You don't. You prefer this. Although when you do your lessons, you are sticking to a script. Then more or less, you're sticking to a script, even though you could be reading it. You're not ad-libbing then, but we are today. So that's the difference.
Yes, I think if something is subjective or objective, I think you have a certain rule that you have to follow. So if I'm talking about a particular thing, I have to be more objective because it's a set rule. So I think that's the main difference. But with this, we can really do and say anything. Well, almost anything.
Yeah.
Can I just let you in on a secret? Mr. Steve got me into trouble. You don't know anything about this out there. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I did. I have been punished by YouTube for something that Mr. Steve said on one of my live streams about 5 weeks ago, and I was punished by YouTube. They let me know that the thing that was said by Mr. Steve was bad and terrible. Well, I won't tell you what it is, because then if I did,
I won't tell you what it is, but I can tell you who said it.
No, don't say the word, please.
I'm not going to say the word, Mr. Duncan.
Okay.
Don't be.
Because
not going to say the word.
You have already.
I just repeated.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just repeated something that the Pope said.
Oh, yes. Okay,
That's
Steve.
all.
Steve.
I'm not repeating the word. Don't worry, Mr. Duncan.
Well, don't even hint at it.
I think that'll be all right.
Yes, don't hint at it even. We have to be. This is why I always tell Steve to be careful what he says, and he got me into trouble. So
you weren't getting into. You're exaggerating, Mr. Duncan.
Well, they cancelled all the revenue from the
video.
I know,
but you didn't get into trouble. Somebody didn't come round and slap your wrists.
No, they just took all of my revenue away,
yeah.
which is even worse when you think about it.
Well, that's just what happens when you don't have a script to stick to.
Yes, but sometimes you have to also think as well. I find not saying certain. There are many things I would love to say, Steve. Many things I wish I could stand here now and say, but I know that I would get into a lot of trouble. Not necessarily with the viewers, because I think you would appreciate my honesty, but YouTube would not like it at all. So there you go. It can be a rather hard thing. Today, by the way, we are talking about a brilliant subject. Making mistakes, errors, things you do that you did not intend to do, or maybe something you did by mistake. So we are looking at mistakes. Have you made any mistakes today, Mr. Steve?
I can't. You mean mistakes? Oh, yes, I have actually.
Ooh.
I have made a little boob, as we say.
Yes.
A boob, a mistake. Yes, I was baking some bread in the bread machine, and but we have a slow cooker as well, and I wanted to make the meal that we're having tonight in the slow cooker, and unfortunately, I needed to plug in, or put in the outlet, the plug for the slow cooker, and I turned off the switch for the bread maker as it was halfway through its baking phase.
Oh.
And thus I didn't know what to do. There was no way round it. I looked at the instructions. You couldn't switch it back on again. And once the power is cut, there doesn't seems to be a flaw with that machine that we've got.
Well, you know, making bread is something, once you start doing it, you can't stop.
You think there'd be some way of forwarding the program to where it was once the power has been restored, but no. So I had to take it out of its tin and put it in the oven to complete the baking. It looks a little burnt. So yeah, there's a mistake I made today.
So Mr. Steve was. I think sometimes Steve tries to do too many things. I think you are a person who sometimes does too much in one short period of time, and that's when you can make mistakes. I'm not saying it's your fault, Mr. Steve, but I am saying sometimes you do try to do lots of things. Anyway,
multitasking. Can I say hello to Ducky Fan Club?
Hello, Ducky.
Seems to be getting a little upset that we're not recognising their appearance on the live chat. So welcome. Let's hope you're here to learn English and not to cause trouble.
Ducky. I was going to say hello, Ducky.
Yep. So welcome, and please feel free to positively contribute to the live chat. Yes. But it's lovely to have you here.
Yes. Oh, we have Pedro Belmont is here today as well. We have Pedro, and who else do we have here? Oh, Bella. Now, do you remember Bella?
I know a lot of Bellas.
Bella used to watch us a long time ago. I will tell you how long ago it was. It was when I used to make my videos with my little chimpanzee, Mr. Lomax. That's how long ago that is. So I haven't really featured Mr. Lomax very much, even though last year he did present one of these live streams. Did you see that? Possibly the worst thing I've ever done. A big mistake, but he did present it on his own. And I can't begin to tell you how much work went into that. And it wasn't very good. I will admit it. That was my mistake, you see. So sometimes you can try something, Steve, and it might be a mistake to do it. Maybe you try to push yourself too far, or you try to do something that is outside your capability. So that also can be a mistake. We are looking at that a little bit later on. Oh, yes?
No, I was just, that'll be an interesting subject, Mr. Duncan. I've got nothing else to say.
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, that's amazing. That might be the first time that's ever happened.
Oh, Christina says that she often forgets things in the oven. Yes, it's easy to... Well, I made another mistake today, Mr. Duncan.
Another one?
And made another one, which was cooking related.
Oh, dear.
So there's a theme. There's a trend here. So I put some porridge on to cook.
Oh, yes.
So porridge, which is oats, I mix it with milk, cook it on the stove. What you're supposed to do is stand there and stir porridge, but it's very boring because it takes about 5 minutes standing there stirring. So I'm in the habit of putting it on very low gas or electricity, and then I think, well, I've 10 minutes. I can come back and give it a stir.
So you
but
leave
it's
it
risky because I go upstairs, maybe have a wash, do something else.
You leave it to simmer.
I leave it on a very low heat. But, of course, if you leave it too long, it ends up burning. And guess what happened today? I put it on a low heat, went upstairs, forgot about it, and then there was that horrible smell coming up the stairs of something burning. I went downstairs and there was the porridge burning in the pan.
I did notice it. I noticed the smell, by the way, and so did the neighbours. I saw them all closing their windows.
Well, it wasn't smoking, but it was past the point that you would want to eat it.
Yes.
So I often do that because it's very boring making porridge, having to stand there and stir it.
So not just one mistake today, two.
Both of them are cooking related.
Two mistakes.
And thank you, people on the live chat, for saying hello to Ducky. Everyone's saying hello to everybody. So that's nice to see.
Very nice. Very good, Mr. Steve. By the way, last Thursday, we all went to do something important. Now, I want to talk about this briefly, so this isn't going to turn into a big thing. Last week we went to vote. The general election took place and now we have a new government. As I said earlier, quite often you have a new government but not much changes. And I think over the years we've noticed that particular thing. But one of the things that was being talked about was an interesting subject, and that is the subject of housing. And I've never really talked about this before. I can't believe we've never mentioned this topic before. But housing is something that is a big thing when you think about it, Steve, because it concerns everyone. We all have to have a place to live. And I would say that there are many different types of housing, places to live. And of course, you might find that the government that exists in each country around the world normally have to have some sort of plan to make sure or to ensure that people have somewhere to live. So it has been quite a big issue, hasn't it?
Housing's been a big issue for many years in this country. because the price of housing relative to wages has gone up substantially.
I think now is it 8 times?
Yes, something like 8 times wages now, whereas it used to be 4 times. So that the price of house is in real terms doubled compared to wages, more than doubled over the last certainly 15 or 20 years. So a lot of people, it's very difficult for new buyers to get into the market now, young buyers. So when I mean, to put things in perspective, when I started working, I could buy up I bought my first flat with a mortgage, of course, and it was roughly twice the price of my wages.
So that's going, I think for context.
So going back to mid-1980s, I bought a flat for, the flat was worth twice what my annual wages were worth.
So when you take out a mortgage, it is a sort of agreement that you are taking out with the lender. So basically, they give you the money for the house, and you buy the house, but you are still paying for the house because you've got to give that money back to the people who lent it to you. And of course, they want a little bit of extra as well on top, the interest.
Yes.
Over the years. So back then, it was easier. In the mid-1980s, it was easier to borrow money or to get yourself on the housing ladder. So you have to climb up.
Well, you didn't have to borrow so much because the price of the house relative to your wages was a lot lower. But now it isn't. If I was to buy that same flat now compared to an average wage, it would be at least 4 times that, if not more. So it means it's much more difficult for you to borrow the money. Interest rates, of course, were a lot higher then, but we don't want to bore people talking about that.
Well, what I'm talking about is housing in other countries.
Housing in other countries, yes.
Yes.
And as we know, you see, in this country, because whenever you get a lack of supply of something, the price of that thing goes up.
Yes. And believe it or not, I mean, this is the thing, Steve. I still find it incredible living in this country because we don't have a big population in this country. It's not a big country and we don't have a large population, to be honest, compared to other countries. But we do have a housing shortage. There is a shortage of places for people to live.
Well, you've touched on the problem there, Mr. Duncan. So, yes, our population is relatively small, say, compared to India or China. But for the size of the land mass, it is very high because France has the same number of people that we do spread across at least 4 times the geographical area. So housing isn't so much a problem. The problem with the UK is we've got about 60 million, 65 million people, something like that. I think it even might be closer to 70 million.
So that is, of course, taking in the whole of the United Kingdom. Would that be right?
The whole of the UK.
The whole of the UK, not just England, but the whole of the UK.
But the population has increased very rapidly, particularly over the last 20 or 30 years, and the pace of housing, the rate of building, has not kept pace with that, which has pushed up the price of the houses that are here. Every government for decades now has been promising to build more houses and none of them have. We won't go into the reasons why.
No.
But there's a supply problem, and when there is a lack of supply of something, the price of it goes up. We know that happened. We saw that happen during the pandemic when businesses were shut down and the price of everything went up because there was a supply problem. That's just a basic measure, basic thing that happens in any economy.
So what I'm interested to find out is what the situation is in other countries. So it isn't easy here. Getting a house, especially if you are young, you're just starting out in life, it's very hard to buy that first house nowadays because they're more expensive, first of all. Even the cheapest house is still more expensive than it used to be. And of course, because everything costs more, it's much harder to borrow money to start off your journey. So more and more people are renting in this country. But even then, there is a shortage because the rent has gone up for many properties because there is more demand. So it is one of those things that there is no solution. Whatever the politicians say, Mr. Steve, there is no solution.
Well, of course, what the new Labour government have promised to do, like every government, is to build houses on what we call green land, which is the countryside. But of course, they're going to come across the same problems that any government has always had when they try to build on what they call green belt or the countryside, is that the people living in the countryside don't want the houses to be built near them.
Yes.
So they put up protests and it delays the whole process of building houses. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. What happens here. But of course there are vested interests as well in keeping property prices high. So it's a very complicated setup. We know that in, for example, other countries like France, compared to the UK, property prices are much cheaper, and a lot of people do go to France and they buy property from the UK, but that pushes prices up in that country.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, in Wales, here in the UK, the property prices in Wales are much lower relative to the rest of the UK.
Yes.
And so people in say England often go to Wales to buy a house quite cheaply, but that then pushes the price of those properties up and the local people can't buy them.
Well, this has been a big issue, not only here in the UK, but also across Europe as well, where people are going and buying property in other places because Europe. So outside the UK, if you go to Europe, Spain is a very popular place for British people to buy property because it is quite affordable. But
Rhubarb
of course, what
makes a
happens?
comment about where we live.
What happens is the prices in those areas then starts to go up because there is more demand. So it does cause a lot of problems. Marwar has said even in Iraq the houses are very expensive, and I think it is a very interesting situation because you always start off small, don't you, Steve? When you buy your first property, you never buy a mansion or a big house when you start off. It's always very small. I remember your little flat. We spent a lot of time together when we first met in Mr. Steve's flat. But that is the first step, isn't it? But nowadays it's very hard to even get on that first step. And I think that is one of the big problems. But I think it's an interesting...
And a lot of people, a lot of parents are finding that the only way that their children can afford to live anywhere is if they come back to live with them, which a lot of people are doing now, much more than they used to. The bank of mum and dad. So a lot of parents would quite happily like to get rid of their children once they're 18. That's what normally happens, isn't it? That's the way things have normally happen.
And there is an increase. You're right. There is an increase of children. When I say children, I don't mean youngsters, but the offspring. They've left home. They've tried to find a place to live, but they couldn't, or they couldn't afford it, and so they've had to go back home and live with their parents again. But in some countries, Steve, that's not unusual. China, can I just mention China from my own experience? In China, the housing situation there is very unusual because you can't really buy houses outright. At some point, that house can be taken back by the government at any time. So there isn't actual ownership of property, even though you do buy the property. The other thing that I was quite amazed by in Chinese society is quite often the parents will buy the house for their child, especially if they get married. So if a daughter marries a man or a man marries a woman, the daughter or son, quite often the family will buy the house. So the first house that they live in will actually be bought by the parents. So the people getting married don't have to even worry about buying the house, which I find incredible.
It happens a lot here in Indian cultures as well, because I've got quite a lot of Indian friends at work, and they say, we don't have to worry about getting a house because our parents and the whole family will all club together and get the money for the house when they get married. So that's a big thing, I think, in some cultures, that when a couple get married, then money from the family will go to help them get their first house, which is quite nice.
Yes.
Whereas most of us have to work to get that. But yes, that traditional model of somebody getting to the age of 18, leaving home, getting a job and getting a house, because of the price of the housing, they're not able to do that so much anymore, which most parents like their children to leave home, and they don't want them staying there forever.
It is true.
I talk to a lot of parents, and they're not particularly keen on their children still living with them, into their 30s.
I suppose the other thing to take into account, we have to think about other things, including location as well. So if you live in, I suppose around here, Shropshire is the area we live in. And to be honest with you, you can get property for quite a reasonable price.
Yes.
Not everywhere, but around here we are lucky in this area that some property is not very expensive. So your money in this area can go a long way. You can get a lot of property for a reasonable amount of money. But if you went to London, so if you were going to work in London and you wanted a place to live, that is a whole different situation, because your money will not go very far. So even a very small flat or even a room. So there are many situations where people have to live literally in a small square box. And that box has everything in there, including the place to eat. It will have a small kitchen. It will have the bed. It will have the sofa or the couch. Everything will be in this small square space. But they are probably paying maybe £1,500 or even £2,000 a month to rent that tiny little space to live in.
Anarchy points out it's the percentage of your wages which go towards your mortgage, which is the important thing, and
yes,
often that's 50 to 60% of your income. And it didn't used to be anywhere near as high as that, maybe 20%, which is manageable. And I know friends that live in London. I've got friends at work who live near London. Well, they don't live in London because it's too expensive. They live just outside London. But they're saying that their wages just disappear at the end of the month. They don't have very much left over for enjoying life. So much they can't do so much socialising because they've got to pay the mortgage, and then maybe the car if they want to get about. That's two massive payments every month, and then there's not a lot left over for them to enjoy themselves. So it's that percentage of your wages now, that higher percentage which is going towards your mortgage, which is making people's lives a misery. And of course, once you start a mortgage, that's 25-year prison sentence.
It is a big commitment.
That's 25 years of your life.
Yeah.
Then you are then committed to paying that off.
Some people
it's a long, long time.
Yeah, some people don't go to prison for that long.
That's right. It is a sentence.
Yes.
And I mean, if you're working, if you can afford it, and you don't really notice. I mean, if you're intending to work for 25 years anyway, which most people work for sort of 40 years, don't they, before they retire at least, then you don't necessarily notice it. But if you get into financial difficulty, you may have a divorce, for example.
Oh, yes.
Which, of course, the home will then have to be split 50-50 or whatever the arrangement is. And then you get children. They're going to be expensive as well. So you've got your mortgage, you've got children, then you might throw in a divorce. And suddenly you can find yourself in financial difficulties, and then you have to take longer to pay that mortgage off. A lot of people now are taking out 30-year mortgages or 35-year mortgages because interest rates, of course, went up after the pandemic. So, yeah, it's a difficult time for everyone. Let's see what Labour can do to fix everything.
But I can tell you now, a year from now, I'm going to say this now, 1 year from now, everyone will be complaining about the government, because we always think that the new government comes in and everything will be wonderful and there will be rainbows and unicorns and everything will be great. But eventually all of that lovely glow fades away, and then reality comes back and you realise that nothing really is going to change. It is a very strange time. And the other thing, I suppose, Steve, and this is something that not many people are talking about in this country, is, of course, the world itself. So everything that happens around the world now can affect us here or you where you are. So it is possible for those things. So it might have nothing to do with the government that is in power in one particular country, because other situations around the world, maybe war, political disagreements, they can eventually have an effect on the place where you live, even if you have no contact with those events. So there are many things to take into consideration. £350,000 or euros, rhubarb says, in San Sebastian, in the Basque country of Spain, an old flat which needs renovation and is without a lift costs €350,000.
That sounds expensive.
That does sound expensive.
Somebody asked about Wales. You could get... the properties are always cheaper if they're in the middle of nowhere. If they're in the deep countryside, away from a big town, property prices are always more expensive near the capital city or a big major town, or if you're near to a school that people want to send their children to. But if you went out into remote parts of Wales and bought a small cottage, I think you could easily pick one up for around £250,000. But would you want to live there?
Yes. There are always compromises when you move to an area where there are few people. So I suppose around here we have a similar situation, but we are lucky because we live quite close to a town, which is, of course, Much Wenlock. So even though where we live is a little bit remote and away, we know that there is a place close by, very near, that we can go to buy things and even walk if we need to, if the weather is really bad. So I think it's a very difficult situation. I think it's much harder. I would say that now, I know I'm not a politician, but if I had my way, I would encourage schools to educate young people on these realities of life. It's because they are realities, and for some people they might be harsh or surprising realities, that these things actually have to be done. You have no choice. You need a place to live. It is not something you can negotiate. You have to live somewhere. You need a roof over your head. And I think it is always going to be one of those big issues. I think in the Middle East, Steve, I might be wrong. By the way, anyone watching in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, for example, I think they get their houses for free. Now, I'm sure someone is going to criticise me for saying that, but I think there is some sort of discount or subsidy.
Yes, I knew somebody that lived in, I can't remember, it was a Middle East country, somewhere near Saudi Arabia, and they said their government buys their houses for them, but there is a caveat with that.
Oh.
I can't remember what it is now. You don't just get a house for free and you don't have to do anything. I think you have to, I can't remember what, there are some conditions around it, but you don't have a mortgage as such. Was it Qatar? I used to know somebody that came from a country in that part of the world. They were a student, and they said that, well, no, we never have to buy property.
Yeah, but that's just, anyway, that I'm probably wrong, but that's what I've heard, that getting property or having a house is not as hard as for people like us who have to walk around the streets trying to find a place to live because we don't have much money, or maybe you're trying to borrow money from the bank because you want to start your journey.
What children certainly need to be educated in is just finance in general, how to handle money, how to save money, basics of sort of good financial management.
Yes.
That's what children need to be taught in schools, which they aren't. Quite often you find that out later on in life, or maybe for your parents, and if your parents are always spending money and borrowing, then you'll probably do the same.
Yes.
So yeah, schools should teach children basic good financial management, but they don't.
Yes, maybe there is that feeling that I suppose it's expecting everything to come your way. Maybe the younger generation seem to have less value of the things around them because it all seems to come easily. But as I always say, young people, you are in for a big shock because life can be quite unfair and brutal. It really, really can.
Rhubarb says that we live in a bourgeois environment.
Bourgeoisie.
I wouldn't say that we live in that. Definitely not.
I would definitely say that we don't.
It's quite a sort of rough country. It's definitely not how you're describing it.
No. Definitely not bourgeoisie.
No, maybe it's definitely not like that at all.
No.
But where we live, people are very. They've been born and brought up here. Most people are, I wouldn't say they were poor,
no,
but they certainly are not wealthy.
Yes. We're just a few notches, we're just a few steps up from proletariat.
Yes, because house prices in Shropshire are probably, if not outside Wales, probably the lowest in the UK.
Yes.
So it's a very cheap is the wrong word, but relative to other parts of the UK, of England, property prices in Shropshire are relatively low, if not the lowest.
Yes, well,
I don't think they're the lowest, but they're very low. It's because it's in the country and people don't want to come and live in the country.
And of course, I always say that this area we live in, Steve, is one of the best kept secrets in the UK because no one ever knows where Shropshire is. You say Shropshire to someone who lives down south and they just look, what?
Rhubarb says, but if it isn't, how come the Conservatives have won in your constituency?
Oh, anyway.
But that's more to do with tradition.
Yes.
I mean, let's not forget, most people in this country are Conservative. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people, because the Conservatives have been in power more times than any other party, and for longer. So generally, people in this country are Conservative doesn't mean rich. It doesn't mean if you're Conservative, you've got lots of money.
Okay.
It doesn't mean
Steve,
that at all.
Okay,
we won't go into that.
No.
But don't associate Conservative, people who vote Conservative, with always being wealthy people. They're not. It's to do with the values.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, Steve, is to look at it as a tradition. Because of course, that particular party is the oldest party. They were originally called Tories. So or the Whigs. I think originally they were called the Whigs because they wore big fancy wigs.
And country people generally vote Conservative anyway. You look at London. Look at all the wealth in London. It's the richest place in the UK. But it's always been Labour.
Yes.
There's a Labour mayor.
Oh, okay,
the
Steve.
whole thing's Labour. So you can't say just because somewhere is Labour, it's poor and working class, and somewhere it's not how it works.
Steve, I think you've made the point definitely. So don't judge people on their colours. The colours that
people have voted Labour because they want to change. They want to get rid of a government which they've seen as failing for 15 years,
Steve.
which I agree with.
Okay, good. That's well. There goes my revenue for another month. Okay, Steve. Thank you very much.
No, you've got to understand how it works.
Okay, Steve. I don't want to use my phrase.
I'm just making things clear to people.
Yes, but you've told us. That's it. Stop, please. Just know when to put the full stop. It is a very, very useful thing to know when to put that full stop at the end of the sentence and move on, which is what we're doing now, by the way. Talking of politics, did you see Joe Biden? What is going on here? Now we think here, Steve, we are having a bad time, don't we, with our government?
You mean mentally? Oh, yeah, the government, right? Okay, yeah.
What do you mean?
I thought you were talking about mental capacity.
Well,
us having a bad time with that.
No, politics. Well, I did say politics. I said politics.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, carry on then. Carry on.
So yeah.
I was trying to have a joke, but never mind.
I didn't see it, by the way. But it is interesting, isn't it? It is interesting. We look at our country and we complain, but things are even more chaotic in other parts of the world where, well, I suppose you might say in France as well, you have this strange situation that's suddenly occurring with the left and right. But I think in the United States, it is a unique situation because you do have an election coming up in November that seems to consist of two people who are both, how can I put this in a sensitive way, Steve? They are getting on a little bit. But one
senior citizens.
Yes, one is getting on slightly more than the other one. And they are having a big difficulty. But I suppose it brings around the issue of being older in society. And we've talked about this together, haven't we? Not necessarily on the live stream, but we have talked about the view of people who are older. Or maybe you get to an age, Steve, where you don't even realise that you are old. Is it possible to be old but not realise that you are old because you don't accept it? So could that happen?
Well, if you're going a bit senile, then I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about just as you live your life every day, you don't realise that you're getting older, and so to you, nothing has changed. You haven't got any older because you're still doing the things you've always done.
Yeah, but sometimes in your mind, you often hear people say they look in the mirror. My mother used to say that. She used to say, I look in the mirror and I see an old person, but in my mind I still feel 18. And people often say that, don't they? That they may be 60, 70, 80, but inside they don't feel that old.
Yes.
They only feel 18.
That's it. So it is an interesting thing. So I believe from my own point of view that you are never too old to do anything. If you can do it, if you have the capacity and the physical energy, do it.
I think I'm too old to go to the moon. Mind you, having said that, William Shatner went up into space, didn't he?
I'm not sure if he went into space. I think just slightly above the clouds isn't space.
Yeah.
You know what space is? Space is starfields and planets.
That's a strange little fact. It's nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but I read an interesting fact about the atmosphere the other day.
Okay.
It was a question about, because you always get this impression, don't you, that the Earth's atmosphere, there's like a boundary, a definite physical boundary between where the atmosphere starts and where space starts.
Yes, because, well, illustrations, when you see diagrams, it always looks as if there is some sort of force field around the Earth.
Yes, it looks like there's the atmosphere, there's the Earth, there's the atmosphere, and there's space. But it's not like that at all. It just gradually gets thinner and thinner and thinner. Miles and hundreds of miles. There's still, even where the space station is, there's still some atmosphere there, apparently. It's just not very much. But there isn't, obviously it does concentrate as you get closer to the Earth, but it's interesting that there's no definite boundary.
No.
And it was an interesting thing to read, that the atmosphere just gradually gets thinner as you go higher.
I suppose
anyway,
it's like...
That's nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, it's a bit like climbing a mountain. If you go up a very high mountain, that change, there isn't a definite line. It just slowly happens. You're slowly aware that the air pressure is changing, or maybe the oxygen is having more. You're having difficulty getting the oxygen into your body. So those things are slow. But I know what you mean. It is interesting.
Yes, I mean,
so how high is space? Well, it isn't. There isn't a height. You just slowly go into it.
I mean, the air's too thin at the top of Mount Everest. It's difficult to breathe the air on Mount Everest. So you can't go much higher than that and survive.
Yes.
So, so obviously there may be a little bit of air near the space station, but you can't breathe it because it's far too thin. But you don't have to go that high before it becomes unbreathable or unlivable. Yeah, we were talking about Biden.
Well, what I find interesting about that situation in the United States is it brings around that feeling of how do you know yourself when you are older. And I think sometimes there are signs that you look out for, Steve. There are signs like, for example, the way people speak to you. If people speak to you like this, you're okay. But if they start talking to you like this, hello, what, are you lost? Hello, dear, all right. Then you know you're getting older, because people are starting to talk to you like you're a child. There's nothing worse than that. And the other thing, Steve, you know you're getting older when wherever you go, someone has a seat or a chair ready for you. Wherever you go. If you go into a shop, if you go into the supermarket, if you're doing anything, there is always someone nearby with a chair, and they will offer the chair to you, no matter where you are.
Well, here's a sign as well that you're always falling asleep in inappropriate moments. And here's a funny story. So in the show I was in the last few days, we have some members who are elderly. Okay, so some are well over into their 80s or into their late 80s, but they still like to perform. So the company are very accommodating, and they allow them to perform, but they just sit down. So in a group and pretend to be characters, but they're sitting down. But one of them last night in the final performance fell asleep on the stage when all the action was going on, and you could hear snoring. I'm not joking.
Oh, no.
Now, there's a sign you're getting old.
Yes.
If you fall asleep in the middle of a lot of action going on around you, there's it did get a laugh from the audience, and we had to go and nudge him awake. I mean, you can tell we're not a professional company.
No. Well, I suppose that's one of the other signs from your point of view is you just feel tired all the time. I think that's one of the problems that they've been talking about with our friend over in the United States. I think he's finding it hard to make it through the day without wanting to become unconscious for a while. And I think it is, well, even at our age, Steve, what did I say to you yesterday? I said to you, Steve, I said, you were out yesterday and I missed my afternoon nap. So even us at our age, I feel at around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I really feel as if I want to have a little nap. So even now it's happening.
It's good for you to have a short nap. The experts say no more than about 20 minutes, otherwise it could affect your sleep patterns at night. But it is nice to have. I like to have a switch off, little nap, 20 minutes after I've finished work, before what I'm going to do in the evening takes place, or even just after lunch. 10, 20 minutes just to switch off,
yes,
reset, and then you've got some energy later on. I mean, this is what they do in other countries.
Yes.
In France, in Spain.
I mean, normally it's because it's so hot as well.
Particularly hot countries, yes. But quite often people, and I think it's good for you as long as it's not too long. Christina says the mountain air regenerates body and mind. Yes, it does, as long as you don't go too high.
Yes.
I think if you start to go up to Mount Everest levels, you start to struggle.
Yes.
But because, how tall is Mount Everest?
How tall is it?
How high is it, I should say?
No, I'm not talking about what you said. It's just a thing that I haven't sort of got it. Sort of here. Let me just say, oh yes, I know the height of Mount Everest because it's just there.
Can someone tell us? Because our highest mountain in the UK is in Wales, isn't it? I think that's about 2,000 metres or 2,000. I'm getting into areas that I don't know.
Steve, sometimes it is better to leave the subject.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes, Snowdon.
I ought to have Google here near me.
Yes. So I'm sure someone is now going to Google. They're going to ask Google, hello Google, can you please tell me how tall or how high Everest is? Because someone on the internet who is talking live, they don't know. They have no idea.
8,000 metres.
Wow.
Thank you, Christina.
That is incredible.
Nearly 9,000 metres, in fact. So that's the sort of limit of breathability, isn't it?
Well, we're talking 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
Aeroplanes fly at that height.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You know what? It isn't often that you say something to me that just leaves me. That's incredible. I just find that incredible. 30,000 feet. That is amazing. So you are really scraping the upper atmosphere of the planet. So that's it, isn't it? That's literally why you can't get the oxygen into your body, because there isn't much there.
Well, that's it. You have to pressurise an aircraft, don't you, at that level?
That is incredible.
You can gradually get used to it, can't you? I think if you're going up Everest, you have to sort of spend weeks acclimatising to the different
I just
height levels.
There are figures that are mind-blowing, and I think climbing up a mountain that's 30,000 feet tall or high is
nearly that, yes.
Around that. I'm not saying exactly, but it blows your mind.
It does, actually.
It does.
Siesta. Yes, Marcia Helena Miranda Cardoza Podesta is using that word that we hear a lot in hot countries, that they have a siesta, an afternoon sleep. How long do they sleep for?
Yes.
I think it's longer than 20 minutes.
I think it's normally an hour or a couple of hours. That's what they do in China. When I lived in China, everything stopped. At around about midday or around about 12:30 or even 1 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone in China goes to sleep for around about 1 hour or 90 minutes. So if anyone is ever thinking of invading China, if you do it after 1 p.m. in the afternoon, everyone in China is asleep. They all go to sleep. I lived there for 4 years and I saw it. You would go to shops, you would walk around places, and everyone would be just asleep, unconscious. You would go into shops and everyone would be just asleep. You couldn't get any service because people were just snoring away.
So why did the shop stay open if all the assistants were asleep?
Well, I suppose that's more from the rules that you have to follow. So maybe the rules and their need for sleep were sort of often clashing. But it was interesting, especially if you went to a bed shop. The staff were actually asleep on the beds that they were selling. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that in the UK. I could never imagine that happening here, but it was funny. It was very funny. Everyone would go to sleep at around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in China. I'm just waiting now for somebody to start complaining to me. Oh my goodness. We're going to have a quick break and then we are back with today's subject. We have half an hour to talk about the subject of making mistakes. Making a mistake. You know what they say? They say to err is human.
Yes.
To forgive is divine.
I'm a big boy now.
Yes, that's what it says on the screen. English Addict is with you today, with myself. That is me, by the way, Mr. Duncan, and we have him here as well. He's still here in the studio, looking very well today. I think I don't know why, Steve. You look really good today. Can I say that? Does it sound weird?
Of course you can, and it's nice to have a compliment. Flattery is always welcome, as long as you're not after something, of course.
I'm not after anything. Why would I be?
I don't know. Maybe you're after something spicy, Mr. Duncan.
It has nothing to do with the fact my birthday is coming in 4 weeks from now.
Maybe you're after a bit of spice in your life.
Oh.
From me.
It's been a long time since...
I think you're...
Steve, it's been a long time since I've had any spice in my life.
I was hoping you'd say it was the chili con carne, because that was the joke I was making, because I'm making chili con carne in the slow cooker, and that is spicy.
There is an interesting combination of smells today in the house. There is burnt porridge, burnt bread, and chili con carne. all floating around in the house. So we do have some very interesting smells.
Some people here are talking about the nap, having a nap, and a few people are saying. One person said it's a human need. How do they describe it as? I can't remember now. They described it as a necessity. It's a human. Well, I can't remember the phrase they use now. But some people are saying that they can't have a nap because it makes them feel ill afterwards.
Ah.
Well, I've found that if you set your alarm for 20 minutes, fine. But if you accidentally sleep for a lot longer than that, like an hour, and you've said this, Mr. Duncan, you wake up feeling worse.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful sometimes.
There's that feeling you get sometimes when you have a nap or a sleep during the day. You wake up, and for a few minutes, your brain has completely disconnected itself from the rest of your body. And it takes a few seconds or even a minute or two for your brain to start rebooting.
Because you've gone into like a deep sleep.
It's like starting up your computer and everything's sort of...
But sometimes you don't feel well for the rest of the evening. But I found if I've overslept in the afternoon and to get myself going, just do something physical. Just do some fairly vigorous exercise, and it tends to reset everything. Yes, it's a human right, says Enaki, to have a nap.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Human right. Yeah, I think I agree with you. If you feel tired, you probably shouldn't fight it.
Yes.
You should just give in to it.
Yeah, because
as long as you're not driving.
No, I think
operating machinery.
I think we all know you don't fall asleep.
I'm joking.
Don't fall asleep while you're driving the car.
I think 20 minutes. Yeah, if you set your alarm, I've read if 15, 20 minutes should be the maximum.
Yes.
But mind you, having said that, sometimes I've slept for. Maybe if I haven't slept well the night before, and then I've slept for like an hour in the afternoon. Sometimes I wake up feeling like I've had a reset.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends.
Yes. I call it my coma. If I have a sleep where I wake up feeling completely reborn, and it does happen sometimes, even in the afternoon, you can have a sleep in the afternoon, and you wake up and it feels like you've been reborn because you've been in such a deep sleep. And that's a bit like what they do with certain injuries, or a person who suffers some sort of illness, infection or something like that. They will actually put them into a deep sleep or coma, and it gives the body a chance then to completely revive and heal itself. And I think we should all do that. Once a year, we should all go into an induced coma for a year, and then at the other end we wake up and it's like, oh, I'm reborn again, and you're ready to face everything. So maybe in the future that might be the way forward. Like Michael Jackson used to have his little thing that he used to sleep in to produce oxygen so he could take nice deep breaths.
You have to listen to your body. Everybody's different.
Yes.
Some people have high energy levels, like Christina.
I can hear your body sometimes making suggestions.
Christina has the highest energy levels of any human being I've ever met.
No, but Steve,
because she's got an enthusiasm for life.
You are wrong. I know one person who is more enthusiastic, and that is, you know who it is, Luis Mendez. Luis Mendez has more energy than myself, Mr. Steve, and everyone in this village.
Well, Lewis is gone because his son's arrived.
He's busy at the moment. Anymore. He's busy in Brittany.
I would say Christina had more energy.
I wish I was in Brittany right now.
And
or anywhere.
So, which is fine. We're all different. You need people with lots of energy. Because I'm a low energy person generally.
Yes.
I've always had low energy, except when I'm doing something I really enjoy, like singing or being on the stage. Then I've got, or if I'm in the garden, I've got lots of energy then. So maybe it's being around you, Mr. Duncan. Maybe that's why I've got low energy.
No, I should be encouraging you to have lots of energy. We have a subject, for those wondering if we are ever going to talk about it. We have a lot of words here to get through. So we're going to go through this quickly, Steve. So think of this as a short English lesson with lots and lots of information that you can look at later. So we are looking at words and phrases connected to making mistakes. Yes, of course, we all make mistakes, don't we, Steve? I make them, you make them. It is a human thing to make a mistake. A mistake is an event or action that occurs instead of what was meant. So I think that is my own interpretation of the meaning of mistakes. There is another way of expressing it, but I think that is more clear. A mistake is an event or action that occurs instead of what was meant. So quite often a mistake is something you do, but you did not mean to do it. It happened, but it was not intended. An unintended action is done by mistake. So that is fair to say that if you do something by mistake, it was not intended. You did not intend to do it. Mistake, the word itself, can be used as a noun or verb. So you can have the mistake as the noun or mistake something as the verb. So you are mistaking one thing for something else. Quite often if a person looks very similar to someone else, you might mistake one person. The adjective form is mistaken. Mistaken identity, for example, or a mistaken meaning. The meaning of something that you say, maybe a word to someone, Steve, and then they misunderstand it. They make a mistake. So that thing is mistaken. It is the adjective form of it. The past tense of mistake is mistook. So you mistook something. I mistook you for your brother. Some people think we are brothers, don't they, Steve?
It has been mentioned.
So we are often mistook for brothers, but I can assure you, for various reasons, that we are not brothers. A mistake can be described...
Something that sounds similar. Anyway, carry on.
A mistake can be described as an error, which, of course, is, I think it comes from Latin, an error of judgment. You err. E-double-R. To err is human. To forgive is divine. That's what they say. A mistake can be small or big. A slight mistake. So I think it's fair to say, Steve, that we all make slight mistakes, small mistakes. And I think every day we probably make hundreds between you and me. We make hundreds of small mistakes. Nothing serious. And then, of course, you can have a huge mistake. Something that causes a lot of problems, a lot of difficulty or chaos. The opposite of mistake is on purpose or intentionally. So instead of something that you did not mean to do, you are doing something that you did mean to do. It is on purpose. You did it, and you know that you did it, and you wanted to do it. It was done intentionally. Here's another one. A mistake is not meant. So that is the simplest way of putting it. A mistake is not meant. An intention is meant. It is something you did and you intended to do it. Why would someone do something intentionally? So this is an interesting one. I will open this up to Mr. Steve as well. Why would someone do something intentionally, Mr. Steve?
You mean something that goes wrong?
Well, no, maybe something that you do and you know that it might have some sort of consequence or maybe some sort of repercussion. So, by the way, repercussion is the effect of something happening. So why would someone do something intentionally? So I can think of a couple of reasons straight away.
Because they wanted a positive outcome to something?
Yes, perfect, in fact. That is it. So they want a good outcome. So the reason why we intend to do things generally is something that is positive or favourable. So yeah, that's perfect, Steve. I couldn't have put it better myself. So another reason, of course, is you might do something intentionally because you want to get a reaction. Quite often people will do things because they want to have something happen in return. You are looking for some sort of reaction. So it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be something you say, something you do, maybe even the clothes that you wear. Like that lady yesterday, walking down Downing Street. She was going down the street towards number 10 Downing Street, and she was wearing this green outfit.
Angela Rayner, was it?
And everyone was talking about it. So even though it did look unusual, she was probably wearing it because she wanted to get that sort of attention, so she would be noticed. So that is a reason why we often do things intentionally, because we actually want to be noticed or to get some sort of reaction. There are many ways of describing the occurrence of a mistake. I'm sure you can think of a few, Mr. Steve. Something happens by accident. So this word, the word accident, when you think about it, Steve, it covers a lot of things, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, because generally an accident is something that happens that you didn't intend for something to happen. It's a negative outcome of something, like a car crash, or maybe a plane crashing. It was an accident. If you hear somebody say it was an accident, then generally you are saying that there is no one, it couldn't have been foreseen, and thus you can't really blame anyone for it.
Yes, I think that's, again, a good word. So something that is unforeseen.
You might trip on a pavement and fall over.
Yeah.
Your shoelace might come undone and you might trip and fall. You could say it was an accident, but then you can probably always look back and say, how many accidents are really true accidents in that they are not really, they couldn't be foreseen in some way? I mean, we hear about a car accident, but what caused that accident? Was somebody not paying attention? I had a car accident because my tyre burst.
Yes.
Well, did your tyre burst because you hadn't been maintaining it properly, or did it burst because there was something on the road that made that tyre burst, in which case you could say that was really nobody's fault and couldn't have been foreseen?
Yeah, but it's interesting also, you can take mistake and you can add mistake into that list of definitions of accident, which I always find quite interesting, that a mistake can also be an accident. So you can do something that you didn't intend to do. Maybe you're driving your car, Steve, and instead of pressing the brake, you press the accelerator.
Yes.
And so you zoom off and crash. So that would be an accident that is caused by a mistake. So overall, you would describe that as an accident or as a mistake, because you did something you shouldn't have. It was unintentional. So it is an interesting word. I always find accident to be quite an interesting word.
Yes, you might bump into somebody in a corridor because you just slightly misjudged where you were walking or where that other person was going to be at that point in time, and you might bump into them. It's, oh, sorry, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do that.
Here's another one. I like this one, by the way. Blunder. It's a great word because it almost sounds like the thing it is saying. It is a foolish mistake. Maybe you are being careless, so you blunder. You might describe a person who is doing a particular job and they're not really putting much effort, or they're not really concentrating. They will just blunder their way through.
If you blunder, it's generally meaning that you're a bit of a stupid person, because you're generally saying that event, that negative event that took place could have been prevented. You were negligent in some way, in the way that you were undertaking that task, and if you'd really been paying attention, it wouldn't have happened in the first place. A blunder.
Yes.
Somebody that blunders a lot. Here's an example of somebody, a politician that was described as somebody who always blundered a lot, was Boris Johnson.
Okay.
There's a classic example of somebody who blunders a lot. Things happen that shouldn't have happened because they weren't paying attention enough to the details of what they were doing. A foolish mistake, something that could have been prevented. A blunder. It's a nice word. It's a good one. It's a good word.
Yeah, I think it's a good word to use when we are trying to highlight a person who is doing something, but they're not doing it very well. Because
he's always making lots of blunders, or she's always making lots of blunders.
Yes.
Mistakes that happen, could have been in their work, and they're not. They're things that could have been prevented had they been paying better attention to what they were doing.
Here's another one. We've got to move on. Slip. So this is another one. I like this one. Again, you often think of this word in different contexts or different meanings, but slip, of course, can be you lose your balance, you slip over, you fall, maybe on ice or on a wet surface. But we can also use the word slip as an error of judgment. We can say that a person might slip up. They do something, they say something maybe that they shouldn't have said. So you slip up.
You slip up. But again, it's unintentional, as you suggested there. And it's not a blunder, because in the use of this word here, slip up means that you're normally a person that doesn't make mistakes.
Yes.
But of course, we're all human and we do occasionally make mistakes. Like, for example, you might be writing a letter to somebody, or Mr. Duncan might be writing something, in one of his videos, and there's a spelling mistake.
Like on today's, the title of today's live stream actually has a spelling mistake. But is that a slip, or is it intentional?
Well, presumably, I'm assuming you weren't. Were you being intentional or not? We'll never know. But let's assume that it was a genuine error. You would say in that instance it was a slip-up.
Yes.
Oh, I made a slip-up there. It just means you probably lost concentration for a second. Not you, but if you describe something as a slip-up that somebody's done, a mistake has been made, but it wouldn't have been intentional, and it would have been out of character for that person. Oh, you made a slip up there. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't normally do that.
Yes.
You could have been tired that day or something. So a slip up is describing something that is out of character to what you usually do.
A couple of more. To put a foot wrong, an error made whilst doing something. I will go through these quickly, Steve. To put a foot wrong, an error made whilst doing something. So that really explains itself, because you are walking, maybe you put your foot in the wrong place. Maybe you trip or fall over. So to put a foot wrong, it means an error made whilst doing something.
Or you can say that person never puts a foot wrong. If you say that person never puts a foot wrong, you're saying that they are very competent in what they do.
Yes. Here's another one. French, everyone. Bonjour. Bonjour to you, my lovely petit pois. To make a faux pas. Faux pas. We do use this phrase in English quite often to describe a mistake or a blunder, something you do. You make a faux pas, maybe in a social situation. Maybe you are going to a fancy restaurant and you sit down and there are lots and lots of knives and forks and spoons on the table and you don't know which one to pick up first. By the way, it's always the smallest. That's the secret, as I understand it. It's always the smallest first. I think. That's what I do anyway.
Pas, yes, a social mistake that is embarrassing to you and would make you seem like a bit as though you were out of your depth.
Yes.
In that particular company. That your standards weren't good enough, that you weren't very high class.
So it literally means to make a false step. So your false step is a faux pas. So that's literally what it translates.
If you were in polite company, having a nice meal out with friends, and suddenly you've been invited along and then you swear during the conversation. That could be seen in that particular context of the type of people that you're with. Could upset somebody no matter what. It's a bit of a faux pas.
Yeah.
That's his swearing.
Quite often a social mistake, something that you either don't know or you forget. Here's another one, Steve. I will let you say this one.
Make a cock up. Yes, that just makes that you've made a pretty obvious mistake. That is something that, what a cock up. You might, for example, last night, during the performances, if somebody had forgotten their lines and it was obvious to the audience that they'd forgotten their lines, they stopped, they stumbled, they were asking for the prompt, you could say, what a cock up.
Yes.
It means that things are going wrong.
It can be one mistake or it can be a situation where there are many mistakes.
Many mistakes taking place at the same time.
Here's
one
another
compounding the other one.
Here's another one. You might make a pig's ear of something. So this is normally when we are doing something practical. Maybe you're making something. Maybe you try to make a cake, or in Mr. Steve's case, tried to make some bread and he makes a pig's ear of it because he makes a mistake, a practical mistake or carelessness.
Yes, usually that results in something visually not looking right. So if you were to make some shelving, for example, you wanted to put up some shelving and it wasn't level, or it fell down, or if something doesn't look right visually,
yes,
and you've done something practical and it doesn't look right, you can say you've made a pig's ear of it.
Yes.
It looks ugly, unattractive.
Yes.
It doesn't look how it should look.
We can also say sow's ear as well.
Yes.
By
the way, Rhubarb says, like when Obama kissed Queen Elizabeth, yes, there's a good example of a faux pas, something socially shouldn't have been done and was done.
Yes, or the time when Trump put his hand on the Queen.
Yes.
He was walking and he put his hand on her shoulder.
Social rules are not being obeyed.
You never touch
in whatever that situation would be.
You never touch the royal family.
Palmyra.
You do. Okay, Steve, we've got 1.5 minutes to do something erroneously. I love this word, by the way. I just wanted to say it. I just wanted to say this word, erroneously. something that is done erroneously is done by mistake. A thing that is done incorrectly, you do something wrong. Now, here is an
error in the word, hasn't it? Erroneous. It's got error in it.
To do something wrong is the next one. Now, wrong is an interesting word, isn't it, Steve? Because wrong can be used in more than one way. So a thing done, but not intentionally, can be done wrong. However, and this is something I want to finish with because this is an important difference, wrong can be used as a way of expressing a mistake or a morally bad action. So something wrong, you do something wrong, it isn't necessarily a mistake. It could also be something intentionally that is bad or wicked. So I think that's an interesting use of the word wrong because it can be used, it's a very broad word, wrong, isn't it?
Yes. If something, yes, I won't go into that because we haven't got time.
To make a gaffe. That's another one. We often use this in British English. To make a gaffe, Gaffe, is to make a mistake, a general error, or of course a funny mistake. We do like seeing people making mistakes, especially when they are funny mistakes. To make a goof, or we can also use the word blooper as well, Steve. I'm sure you know this one very well.
Why would I know that?
Well, when we talk about filming or performing or putting on a show, maybe you get the words wrong, you goof. A goof is a mistake made whilst doing something. So maybe somebody is performing and they forget the words or they say the wrong word.
Oh, yes. Oh, I made a goof.
Yes.
Yes. Or you made a mistake. You just said the wrong word.
And we often think of bloopers, don't we? We think of bloopers when a person is trying to do something on film or on camera and they keep getting it wrong. We call them bloopers. And that, guess what, Steve? That is that. We have almost come to the end of today's live stream. It's been a busy one. A busy one indeed.
Thank you for all your comments on the live chat. I love reading them and trying to interpret them and making comments about them. So yes, that's been very enjoyable today, and it's been lovely being here, Mr. Duncan. I'm hungry and I need to go to the toilet.
It's a very interesting collection of things.
I'm crossing my legs.
Okay,
Mr. Duncan. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. And have a good week. And Mr. Duncan's going to be putting on lots of lessons during the week, so look out for those.
I can't begin to tell you how busy I have been. Thank you, Mr. Steve.
You've been very industrious.
I have. See you soon.
Ta-ta.
And that is Mr. Steve. He is leaving now, but I promise he will be with us next week. It has been a very lively one today. A lot of things going on, a lot of things happening, and it's nice to have Steve back in his comfortable corner. Thank you very much for your company today. It's been a very interesting one. We've had lots of subjects. We've been talking about worlds colliding figuratively. We've been talking about making mistakes. We've been talking about housing. And we've been talking about lots of other things as well. Mr. Steve is back with us next Sunday. I will be back with you on Wednesday. I think I will be with you live on Wednesday. Lots and lots of new lessons coming up as well. Oh, also, next Sunday, it is episode 300 of English Addict. Next Sunday. I wonder if we are doing something special for that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. A week is a very long time when you think about it. Thank you for your company. See you soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I hope you have a nice day wherever you are watching in the world. This is Mr. Duncan. And of course, on behalf of Mr. Steve, saying thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. And of course, until the next time we meet here, right here on YouTube. The world of English is a fun and exciting place to be, and I hope you will join me next time. Ta-ta for now. See you soon.